Greetings. I thought I'd make another video about mud floods locally in Ipswich in Suffolk. So we'll start with St Mary the Tower Church, and as you can see it has the four prongs and the central spire on the tower. So we'll come back to that in a minute because, as usual, this has jumbled up all the photos. So you'll see on this one you have, this is in the adjoining street that runs parallel, you have a lower window there. These are not very clear on these photos. There's also a vent here, so you've got this rendering, because this is not the true street level, they've added in this door here. Doesn't really fit with the rest of the architecture on that one. So moving on, because there's about 49 pictures to get through on this. This is the library. Again, I've showed this one before. You've got these lower windows here. There's a gentle downward slope going in this from left to right on your screen. We're going back through old ones here. I must apologise about this. Let's move on. Right. This is Old Foundry Lane, and you can see where the current road level is, and I would imagine the original or the true street level is down here. You have these lower windows, but these are not as deep as these ones, so maybe they go slightly lower than that. It makes no sense whatsoever to build the building down below the ground. It's just ridiculous. I would recommend Jon Levi's channel for an introduction to mud floods, and also Flat Earth British, where you can get far more comprehensive coverage. This is just local. I happen to notice this balcony on the side of one of the buildings in the Butter Market. Now you'll notice here, of all things, you've got a letter G. I wonder who once used that building. And this beautiful architecture here, which is now the TSB Bank, again in the Butter Market. It doesn't really show up very well, but you've got seashell sculptures in this line here. Funny, this maritime connection, and you've got what I would say was definitely Tatarian brickwork. Beautiful building. There's still quite a few beautiful buildings in Ipswich. Now this is more the sort of thing I would expect to see from years ago, and you can see this timber framed house. It has bowed here. This is, I think, 16th century. It was in use as a bookshop. There's another one behind it. You can see how cramped and closed in these are. This may well be the street level. It progressively climbs up as you go north along this pedestrianised street. And there's the one with the G in the railings. Make of it what you will. There's some very interesting things coming out from this, and here we have on the corner of, I can't even remember the name of the streets. I think it's Upper Orwell Street, and it leads into Lower Orwell Street. But on this corner you've got this energy collector. Again, a beautiful building. Possibly this has been added in over the top, but the attention to detail with all these old structures. And it's funny how there's nothing built like this today. They say it's cost. Well, I would have thought cost would be relative in any time period, personally. That's another view. Again, showing this energy collecting device on this corner. And moving on, that's now the Tourist Information Centre. Old church, obviously been modified at various stages. I'll come in a bit closer to that. Oh, the wonders of my knowledge of technology. This is the only way I can do it. Now, this is the one that caught my eye last week, and I thought I've got to go back and get photos of this. This is the back of the old post office building. I don't know how clear it's going to come out, but down here you've got the top of an arch of a window. I mean, why would you change the brick from the horizontal pattern and go to all this trouble of putting in this archway. Now, I did a bit of digging on the internet, just putting in old post office Ipswich. There's the building there, and the town hall. Again, a beautiful building. But are we expected to believe? Oh, notice there's 1, 2, 3, 4 spikes on the top there. Antiquity technology. Would you really go to all this trouble just to sell stamps, postage stamps? It seems incredible. And was Ipswich that wealthy that they could build a beautiful building like this as the town hall? And then I found another drawing, very interesting. We're coming as close as I can. And lo and behold, if you look here, it's mud. All the way round is mud. You've got paving here, and you've got this beautiful building, and it's mud. So it does make you wonder where, why and how did they transport all this heavy material through compacted mud. So moving on, and we have another view of the back of that post office building, and I think it shows a lot clearer here. You can see the slight curve and the bricks going almost diagonal, just what you get at the top of a window, but we are at street level, the first 2 courses of brick showing above the paving. And on the side of the Barclays Bank, what must at one time have been a window, again totally different colour brick, different size of brick as well by the looks of it. Another little telltale sign. It's always worth looking around the bottoms of these buildings. There's the church, St Mary the Tower from a distance again. And moving on. Now, this is the entrance to St Mary the Tower, and you can clearly see on here flood damage by the looks of it. It's very poor. It definitely looks to be eroded away by water on that one. We'll come back to another picture. Again, these pictures have gone all over the place. This is another one of that lovely timber framed buildings, and you've got people in there. I always try and get people in to show a sense of scale, particularly with doorways and windows, because you have to think about why are some of these things so massive when they don't need to be. Another one with a telltale sign. Looks to be another lower level. Because these are all jumbled up, I can't actually remember which streets these are in. Now this is the churchyard of St Mary the Tower. You will notice, and it gets progressively steeper the further you go to the right. The street level is up here, but the ground level of the churchyard is much lower, which I thought was highly suspicious, and I think that is the true ground level, but it's progressively sloping upwards. And again, a little bit further down the road, looks to be another window. You can ignore all the surround that may have been added, but it looks pretty much the same dimensions as the window above with this piece here. And again, you've got this rendering with the new street level. And this lovely back view of the town hall. You've got this energy collector here. There's another one here. I mean, it's a beautiful piece of architecture to marvel at. And this is the back view of this town hall and corn exchange that once was. And there are lower levels to that they used to use as the fruit and veg market. And again, another beautiful building that doesn't quite fit with the official narrative of our history. And again, you have this progressive slope. It's actually quite steep through the walk compared to surrounding areas. Again, now what I found very interesting with this was you've got this dome shape, and you have 4 pillars. And again, this is something you see replicated, and I do wonder, is it a reference to the dome over the earth and being supported on 4 pillars? It all seems to be put there in plain sight with all these things anyway. And again, the timber framed building with the bowing, where the wood is started to sag after, well, so they say, centuries. Opposite the town hall, again a lovely building, and you have this glow ball, or globals. I think this is where they've actually reused the word about global technology. They were glow balls with this free energy collection devices. And knowing the way darkness works, they always like to reuse the words and put a new twist on them, because they love their sadistic laughter at all of us. Again, in the butter market, this beautiful architecture, all lovely in proportion, and it's even got fine detail right up. And you have to ask yourself, there's no practical reason to go to all this expense for a shop. But again, it's blank panels, so that whatever names were on these have been removed. And again, you've got this dome shape and 4 pillars. And behind it, you can see one of the other churches with the 4 energy collectors and what I think is now used as a flagpole. Here again, St Mary Le Tower entrance. This is it actually matches up with the street level, where this water line is on both sides of this entrance, where it's clearly is water damaged stonework from quite some time ago. And I do ask you to use a bit of logic and common sense and ask yourself, really, could they have built all this with just brute force, horses and ropes? And down another street, you can see the lower level. I think that was Lower Brook Street. Clearly a different street level. And again, all the telltale signs. That previous picture, that's the entrance to that lower level. And then there are little vents which line up with these windows on this rendering. So they're not telling us the truth about where the street level is. Maybe we'll do an underground tour. Now, fortunately, the other side of the road, this is not mud flood damage, this is demolition. But there was a gap in the hoarding where I could actually see the back of what the building they've demolished. The street level obviously is up here, but then you have this great depth, and how far that goes down. There looks to be something like an archway here. So maybe this is would be from the inside of the building looking out to the street over, which would be onto the left of the picture. Little telltale signs. I would love to get in and get a more sort of 90-degree angle and actually have a look further along on this brickwork and see if there are any other telltale signs. Again, on another corner building, the Butter Market, and I think it's Upper Orwell Street, you have another energy collector, the oxidised copper dome, and then a little ball, probably another glow ball on top. And again, this is a repeat pattern. You have these vents where there probably was tops of windows. If you compare the height between these 2 floors, it will be about the right height for the next window frame to start, but they've obviously put this frontage over the top of it. And then moving on, this is Fonaroo Road, which is quite a steep hill, and you can see here you have windows and a much lower level, doorways with steps to get to the front doors, so that is obviously an afterthought. And again, another one where little telltale sign, completely different type of brick, and looks to have a very slight curve to it as well. And yeah, another one here. This is actually the last one I took today. I happened to spot this one when I was going back to the car, and you can clearly see in the brickwork here the archway of a window top, and it is on a hill. And down one of the little walkways, again, you'll see there are lower height windows. This is the view that you would see from Northgate Street looking down this, I think it's St Lawrence Passageway, I think it's called, and that was roughly where that, in that last picture, where that lower window is. So it does make you wonder even about some of these timber framed buildings. Again, a bit further down that, there's another sort of vent here, which could well be windows, or where it's been modified. They introduced the new street level. Again, the Greco-Roman style of this Bethesda church. You've got, as Martin Liedtke has suggested, and I think he's spot on with this, about this pyramid shape. And you'll notice 4 columns, 4 corners of the earth, I would suggest to this. And you'll notice everything always comes in threes. You've got this doorway, which is much bigger than an average sight person. They probably come up to about this level against that door. And then you have 2 either side. It's always in 1, 2, 3 on these things. Again, this is on the, I think, the Ipswich and Suffolk Historical Society. Again, within their sort of courtyard, this lower window. Surprise, surprise. And a common theme, yes, another one at street level. Clearly a blocked up window from a previous time. Now, what's interesting in Lower Brook Street, you've got this modern building, but you've got this much lower ground level at the back of this building. I didn't actually bother with the building so much. And further up in Lower Brook Street, again, these lower windows yet again. And this doorway caught my eye as well. Again, 1, 2, 3, the dome shape, and you've got what looks like, within, etched into the glass, what look like, almost like lightning or electric charges. I think again that's a big clue. And surprise, surprise, we've got this Greco-Roman style sort of triangular. So we call it an arc, or the top of an arc, perhaps. Another beautiful building that's not been destroyed, but it's Costa Coffee now. But all this beautiful attention to detail, all way high up, and you do wonder what was the thinking behind it all. It serves no practical value. It's aesthetically pleasing, yes, it's beautiful. Again, something we cannot build today. Now, this is going back to Lower Brook Street. You can see, I'll come back here. You can see now this is the street level. And again, see the way it goes right down? You've got a whole new lower floor, even on this modern building that's been inserted into this area. A little telltale sign there. And again, we've got some funny ornate decorations. Looks like some sort of cross made out of grapes. And some very strange ornamentation that seems to be affixed. Again, why would you put all this decoration up so high that most people don't even notice when they're too busy looking at the shops and things, and spending their money doing what any good debt slave is supposed to do. And again, lovely building here. Don't wish to give any of these corporate chains advertising, but unfortunately there's no way of actually getting around this with these pictures. Again, I forget the reason I took this, apart from its sheer beauty in its proportions and style, but there's some very little interesting details. I can't even remember what it is on these. It doesn't. I apologise for my primitive knowledge of technology, but you've got designs way up high that they're not really showing on this, but again, it's sort of food for thought with all this. Now this is Foneroo Road, the bottom end of it, and you can see there's not many of these Georgian style houses in Ipswich, but they all have lower levels, and it's quite a steep incline. It's progressive from coming up from the docks, and it just keeps going up and up and up. And again, bit further south, back in Northgate Street, another window, and this doorway that doesn't, I think I showed this one earlier, it doesn't fit in with these windows. It doesn't replicate the same style. It's almost, well, I would say it's definitely added in. And then finally, this one here, it took a bit of spotting, but you've got this slight curve of what looks to be a window top, and here is the sort of pebble infill and then the paving. Now, why would you put a window that low down? It's just simple logic with these things. So that concludes this video on evidence of mud floods in Ipswich, and do check out Jon Levi, and do check out Flat Earth British channels for far more in depth on this. It is fascinating, and it opens up a whole new history that has been buried, quite literally, under mud, and then all swept under the carpet, as it were. I wonder if that's where the saying comes from now. But yes, do please check out the other, Jon Levi and Flat Earth British channel. If nothing else, just to give yourself a fresh new insight into the past, and also clues as to the sort of technology that was once available, and the technology that can be used for more sinister means, it would appear. So I'll leave that with you there, and thank you very much.